So at this time, I wanted to, again, I said that we'll make a special presentation, and I wanted to invite two of my colleagues up to give the presentation, John Meeks from the National Center and Marcus Reinkensmeyer, that will deliver the presentation for the 2019 Distinguished Award of the Warren E. Burger Award. So John and Marcus.
Thank you, Paul. It is my honor to co-present the Warren Burger Award with Marcus Reinkensmeyer to Dr. Maureen Connor. In 1971, the newly sworn-in 15th Chief Justice of the United States, Warren Burger, met with a group of state Supreme Court Chief Justices and formed a vision for judicial administration that included establishing the National Center for State Courts. Burger's tireless commitment to court administration also included the original premise of educating and employing professional court executives and developing continuing education for judges and improving coordination between the federal and state courts. In recognition of Chief Justice Burger's lifelong commitment to improving courts through the effective administration of justice, the National Center for State Courts annually confers the Warren E. Burger Award for Judicial Excellence in Court Administration to an individual who embodies Burger's dedication, commitment, and vision. If this award was a Hollywood Oscar, it would not be for a single achievement. It would be an award for a lifetime of professional excellence. No one is more deserving of an award for a lifetime of professional achievement in support of improving the courts than Dr. Connor. Maureen's contributions have been so extensive that it takes two of us to summarize them. My experience of Dr. Connor has been in the field of judicial branch education. She was the author of several of the original monographs that defined our profession. Through her scholarship and practical advice, she has taught judicial educators in the United States and around the world what to do and how to do it. As the director of the Michigan State University Judicial Administration Program, she also maintained a repository of information about how to educate judges and court managers and staff. She has challenged and supported individuals and the profession as a whole for decades. I am personally and professionally grateful for Dr. Connor's work and proud to recognize her with this award. Marcus?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, John, for the opportunity to co-present. It's just a distinct pleasure to speak on behalf of Maureen just a little bit, and because we go back a number of years. But I should tell you, Maureen, that I'm speaking for a large group of our fellow professionals. We have signatories on your nomination from the National Center, from the NACM group, NAPCO, also the state judicial administrators and educators, if you will, state court administrators, and even Ukraine. Okay, so you're international in your accomplishments, but also the folks really recognize your work. So I first worked with Maureen back in the mid-'80s, and it was at the administrative office of the courts in Illinois. And I think back, we were both eager, young kind of professionals, not much experience. And if you know Illinois, it's a very large, complex system, and I would say at that time, it's fair to say it was sort of steeped in tradition, right? And Maureen's nodding. And she moved mountains. Her leadership and innovation was, to me, pretty amazing, and it was sort of leadership and grace under pressure. And so that's where I first saw your work firsthand and how effective you were in moving that system forward. And I think some of those were lasting changes there for that judicial education program. Fast forward then, I'm working with NACM and whatnot, and Maureen approaches us on a program that John mentioned involving certification, but also bachelor's degrees and master's degrees in judicial administration. And this was a huge step for us to kind of partner the NACM group with Michigan State University and Jarrett. And you folks need to know that to get approval for something like that in a university is no small task. And so my hat's off to you, but that allowed folks to have some of those kind of training opportunities here at the conference, but also online and whatnot. And I think it touched hundreds, and Maureen would know, but maybe even thousands of folks in court administration, because soon then, the federal courts adopted this, the federal district courts, and also the bankruptcy clerks in federal courts. And so this program has touched a lot of folks and has kind of helped us further the profession. And if I had to kind of summarize, how do you do all this, okay? What is it in a person? I would say Maureen is certainly a consummate professional. There's no question about that. She has a true passion for the work we do. She gets it when it comes to the mission and purpose of courts. Her leadership style is interesting to me. It's more of a servant leadership, okay? Sometimes with NACM, she sort of worked behind the scenes, like the Wizard of Oz, if you will, but moving us forward in a really deliberate way. So, Maureen, on behalf of your colleagues, I simply want to tell you thank you, and I just want to tell you congratulations as well.
Obviously, I didn't have to grade any of your papers, or it's not likely that you would have given me such a kind reception. Thank you so much for this honor. I didn't think I would be working long enough to have done the things that I did. I'm feeling a little bit old, but not too old. I look out across this room and I see a room full of leaders and teachers and people who feel passionate about this work. And so I would just say to you, the thing that drove me, as both John and Marcus said, was my passion for justice and the rule of law and improving the quality of life in our communities, whether it is in Kyiv, Ukraine, or Las Vegas, Nevada, or in my hometown, Lansing, Michigan. If you hold that passion in your hearts and you never deviate from that passion, you will feel that well inside of you every single day. And you will know how blessed you are to have served this work in the communities that you live in. To the National Center and for all of the organizations and people who recommended me for this award, thank you. It is much appreciated. Thank you very much.
All right, ask the officers to come up on stage now. All right, as the officers make their way on stage, I would like to announce that we are now ready to commence the 2019 General Business Meeting of the National Association for Court Management. I would like to acknowledge our parliamentarian, Alice Roberts. And once I get situated, I'd like to call on NACM's Secretary Treasurer for a declaration of a quorum. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum? Okay, thank you. So we'll proceed with the agenda. As you can see, the agenda is on the screen and it's also in the conference app. So I'd like to first turn it over to Greg Lambart, one of our directors.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Lambart. I'm the current chair of the NACM Governance Committee. And as such, it's my job to present proposed changes to the Articles of Incorporation and the bylaws. Some of you may remember that changes that were proposed to the articles back in 2000. While those changes were voted on by membership, they were in fact never registered with the Virginia State Corporation Commission. That is the entity in charge of regulating corporations in Virginia where NACOM is officially registered. Therefore, today we are proposing changes to the original Articles of Incorporation from 1985. Hopefully you saw, I can't say it, there we go. Hopefully you saw one of our 2 email blasts and/or article in the Court Express providing an explanation of the changes being proposed to the Articles of Incorporation. Those changes are summarized on the slide in front of you. Essentially, we're looking to remove the delineation of classes of directors in the corporation, and we're also looking to change the way we can make future changes to the number of directors, throwing that to the bylaws. Is there anybody here who has a question? If there's anybody on live stream who has a question at this point, you can send an email to Kathy@nacomnet.org, as it says on the slide. Okay, I'll take the crickets as no questions. Per Article 3, Section 2 of the NACOM bylaws, the right to vote shall be limited to regular, honorary, and retired members in good standing. Article 3, Section 5 states, a member whose dues are not current at the time of the annual meeting shall not be entitled to vote. To facilitate the formal vote required by the Virginia State Corporation Commission, we'll be utilizing SurveyMonkey. As you can see on the slide above, there is a link available to the voting survey through the conference application. For those watching on live stream, there is a link on the live stream page in the agenda. If you scroll down to the business meeting, you'll see a link that says click to vote. Whoops, sorry about that. Go back. Don't touch it again. Should you not be able to get to the survey in one of these manners, you can type in the URL into your phone's browser to navigate to the survey. And finally, if anyone in the room doesn't have access to the internet, you can go to the back, close to where the video is being taken. You see Janet's waving her hand, Janet Reed from the National Center, and she can give you a paper ballot to take care of this job. All right, so at this point, I'm going to step down. The vote will now start. We will be accepting votes for the next 15 minutes. Thank you for your time and attention. Next up is Kathy Griffin with the Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, Greg. And now we will have a number of presentations from our directors. We will start with an officer under the Treasurer's Report, Kathy Griffin.
Thank you. I've had the pleasure of serving as NACOM's Secretary Treasurer, and I'd like to, as you see this large deficit on the screen, I want to emphasize that I'm confident by the end of 2019 that deficit will be a smaller number. When we do our budget process, we tend to be conservative and overestimate expenses and underestimate revenues. However, the board knows that we cannot continue to operate as an organization in the red. The board has made numerous budget cuts, and through committee restructuring and increased workloads, we have increased our efficiencies. In the last 10 years, the cost of living has increased almost 19%. However, membership numbers are annually about the same, with little to no change in our membership rates or conference registration costs. In popular conference locations, such as where we're at now, the expenses are even higher, as I'm sure you're all aware from being out and about here in Vegas, which equates to smaller revenues. NACOM values our members, and over the past several years, we've added additional resources such as webinars, guides, podcasts. We've added a new website and many more to enhance member benefits, but all of these enhancements create additional expenses. Keeping all that in mind, it's also the focus of the board to reach all court leaders, whether it be a large court, a rural court, a municipal court, or a tribal court. And while a larger court might be able to absorb a rate increase, it might exclude a court leader from a rural court. So my message here is we value each and every one of you as a member and all the work that we do as court leaders. In closing, I want to again acknowledge SJI for our grant and assistance in helping NACM provide access to education, and all the financial documents are available through the app. Thank you.
All right, next I would like to call up our Communications Committee Chair, Alice Roberts.
Hello, everybody. As Paul said, I'm Alice Roberts. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, and I have been serving as the Communications Committee Chair for the last year. And it has been an awesome year, so I'm delighted to be here today to give you a report about the committee. For those of you who are new to NACM, this committee has a number of responsibilities, including publication of NACM's journal, The Court Manager. And in the Court Manager, we cover a broad range of topics. Actually, I should say you all, because many of you contribute to the Court Manager. Topics such as blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, the work of the National Judicial Opioid Task Force, mediation, online dispute resolution, and many others. We also have a newsletter that's sent out about 4 times a year, and in that we cover ethics, conference summaries, and a report on the Joint Technology Committee. These are just examples of what these publications include. The other thing the Communications Committee is responsible for, working in conjunction with the Education Committee, is to facilitate our webinars. And this year, we've had 2 webinars so far this year, and our webinars are free in live format for anyone who wishes to participate, and the recordings of these webinars, for the most part, are exclusive to members, NACM members. We worked in collaboration with the Conference of State Court Administrators and had a webinar on COSCA's 2018 policy paper, Courts Need to Enhance Access to Justice in Rural America. And we also had, for the first time, a sponsored webinar by Tyler on the topic of online dispute resolution, which was very well received. We are in the process of working with the Self-Represented Litigation Network on our next webinar, which is right now tentatively planned to be on non-lawyer navigators. So, yeah, you can look forward to that. We also, every year, produce a guide. And this year, the guide that a subcommittee is working on is to update NACM's media guide, which will be a great resource for courts. And I want to acknowledge our co-chairs of that subcommittee, Frank Hardister, who also serves on the board, and Dorothy Howell. And we also, the Communications Committee oversees the content on NACM's website, and I want to acknowledge our website coordinator, Jeffrey Sunakawa. The things we've been working on the website this year, Career Opportunities page, that's a new feature. We have a page dedicated to Court Leaders Advantage podcasts, which is also a new feature of our offering from NACM. And we're working on a repository, a very comprehensive repository of all NACM's resources that once it's finished, you'll be able to go ahead and search on any topic of interest to you, and you'll yield all of the resources we have, whether it's a webinar, a guide, articles in the Court Manager on an individual topic. So you can look forward to that. And the other thing we manage on communications is social media, and I want to acknowledge our social media coordinator, Kevin Lane. We've, in the past year, with Kevin's assistance and actually his work, have greatly increased our presence on social media. And if you're not following NACM yet, I encourage you to follow us, because we are regularly posting articles of interest to the court community. And just so you know, the platforms that we're on: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and our newest platform, Instagram. Okay, and then finally, I mentioned earlier our newest offering, which is the Court Leaders Advantage podcast series. And I want to acknowledge our host, our primary host for that series, Peter Kiefer from Arizona. I think we have about 5 or 6 podcasts under our belt now, ranging from ransomware attacks, lessons learned from Alaska's earthquake and Hurricane Florence. And the other thing about these podcasts is it's a great way for you all to stay connected with each other throughout the year, because it's really neat to be able to listen to your colleagues talk on these topics of interest to court professionals. And with that, I meant to do at the beginning of this, I would like to now ask all of the folks in the room that serve on the Communications Committee, if you could please stand up. I want to acknowledge all of you. And I know you're in here, so. Thank you. I'm going to advance. Oh, Paul, you did it for me. There we go. So, I can't see the screen, but these 5 individuals over here, they really do a lot of work for NACM. And so now at this point, I want to acknowledge in particular a few folks who during the last year just really did a lot of work. So first off, I want to, and if you're present in the room, please come up to receive your award. And I want to start with Janet Cornell. Janet, many of you know Janet. In addition to participating in the communications meetings and just kind of being a support as someone who's been in the court profession a long time and is very knowledgeable, Janet regularly contributes articles to the court manager, and she's just a really big fan of NACM, and she supports the communications committee regularly. I think what I'll do is I have a few awards to give, so I'm just going to do this all at once, just for efficiency's sake. Okay, next I want to recognize somebody who I love dearly, and it's just been such a pleasure to work with her during the last year. This was her first year serving on the Communications Committee, and she is Dorothy Howe. Dorothy, in her first year, she wrote an article for the court manager when asked. She agreed to chair the media guide subcommittee, and she, when we were looking at adding Instagram to one of our social media platforms, she demonstrated how we might do that. And she's also been working with the group that is developing audience-specific landing pages that will be topic/audience specific. And she also is, she's also working on the social media. She helped with rewrite NACM's social media policy. So Dorothy, thank you. And next I want to recognize someone who I've had the pleasure of working very closely with this last year, and that's Peter Kiefer. Peter is, he could have a separate career in broadcasting. He's incredible. He's been taking the lead significantly on our podcasts. He's also helped implement the new feature that we have this year at this conference, Facebook Live. If you're not following us on Facebook, you should check it out. Check out these recordings because they're really incredible. And he is serving on the 2020 Media Guide Subcommittee, and he regularly contributes articles to the court manager, and he also manages the ethics column for the court manager. And I'm disappointed he's not in the room, so he's working. Oh, right. Okay, and then quickly, I'm going to try to move this along. I want to acknowledge Kevin Lane, who is our social media coordinator. He's been serving as the coordinator for the last year. He's been posting really great content out there. And he chaired a subcommittee that drafted NACM's social media policy. And to increase connectivity with courts, he went through the process of liking all of the court Facebook pages that are out there. And He is now serving on the Media Guide Subcommittee. So thank you, Kevin. Next person I want to acknowledge is Dawn Palermo. She was a former director on the board, and she's not here today, but she served on the website review committee, and she conducted a website review. She is working diligently on developing that resource repository that I mentioned earlier, and she just does incredible work. So, Dawn, if you're participating online, thank you. We miss you. Next, I want to recognize Roger Rand. Roger Rand from Oregon has, he's been incredible in providing technical support for NACM. We have limited resources, and as you probably know well, technical support can be very costly. And Roger has some folks in Oregon who are very tech savvy, and so when NACM is struggling to implement something, he always offers his court services, so and his own services. So thank you for that. And just a few more things. He also is serving on the Social Media Policy Subcommittee and the 2020 Media Guide Subcommittee. And when we were desperate for articles for the court manager, he solicited someone in his court to write an amazing article. So thank you very much, Roger. Okay, finally, I want to, two more, sorry. Tasha Ruth. These individuals are incredible, by the way, and it was hard to figure out who to pick. But Tasha Ruth is the editor of the court manager, and that involves, as you can imagine, every quarter reviewing several articles and editing them, and so that's significant. So thank you, Tasha. And finally, I want to acknowledge Randy Short, who is serving on the Media Guide Subcommittee. He wrote an article for the court manager when we needed one, and whenever he is unable to attend a call, he always sends me an email and he says, Alice, I can't make the call today, but if you need any help, sign me up. And so I just appreciate that. I appreciate everyone on the Communications Committee. You all are wonderful. And for those folks watching online, send me an email, let me know you're here, and thank you for everything you do. And with that, pass these out. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. And as you can see, just from Alice's report, that's just from one committee. You can imagine the amount of work that actually is performed by your NACM board. And as was shared earlier and was shared in your app, we will be having committee meetings throughout the day on Wednesday. And the Communications Committee, if you're interested in just learning more about them, then join them on Wednesday at 10:30 in Monet 1. But again, each of the committees will be meeting on Wednesday throughout the day. So next I would like to ask TJ Bement to step up and share information about the Education Committee.
Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate it. You may have remembered from this morning when Paul mentioned some of our strategic planning efforts and our strategic planning priorities. About 2 years ago, and implemented over this last year, was a bit of restructuring for NACM as an organization in an attempt to make sure that we were providing both a cohesive message and a cohesive educational program for our members. So as part of that effort, we decided rather than having a completely independent conference development process and then a separate and complete core process that managed our core and the core competencies, as well as little bits and pieces of education scattered in membership and scattered in communications and even in governance and work as whole as the board, the board came up with an idea to bring all those back under the larger umbrella of education. It seems pretty intuitive, right? But it took us a while to sort of get our arms around that and sort of reshape the mission of this committee. So this newly formed committee is now assigned to the vice president of the association with the idea that the vice president, if they become the president-elect the next year, they're in charge of conference development so we can provide some transition. So as part of this newly formed education committee, we have the conference development program, which we've largely done, led this year by Will Simmons, who was our president-elect. We then have our core subcommittee that's led by our secretary-treasurer, Kathy Griffin, who is in charge of making sure that our core competencies remain viable, stable, and are updated as necessary. Then we are also in charge of some greater educational planning as well. And I just want to take a quick moment to talk about a couple of the quick highlights. First, with regards to the conference development, we wouldn't be here without that. The folks that have put in the effort here, led by Will and his team, bring you the 2 educational programs that we see each year, the mid-year that we had in Little Rock, Arkansas, and then this year's annual where we are right now. We have 6 breakout sessions at each opportunity, multiple plenaries, folks from around the country coming to visit us as well as around the world, notable plenary speakers, notable breakout sessions. It's a great, great conference that we put together for you, so we are very much appreciative of the efforts of the conference development folks. With regards to the core, we are excited about some upcoming changes that will be coming to that. We are updating, I think about 8 or so right now of our core curricula, and are going through and updating the rest of them in due course, and we'll be circling around to the rest as we get to those. We are also looking at some things to promote the core even further, so those will be coming up over the course of the next year. A couple of the education things Alice mentioned with our repository and our webinars and our podcasts, all of these are linked together with a greater educational mission. So we encourage you to come and see us on Wednesday to learn more about the committee and the efforts that you all can play in it, because we cannot do this heavy lifting without you, our members, on our behalf. So I'd like to do a couple recognitions on behalf of the overall committee and our subcommittees, and I'm going to do this Price is Right style. So you're going to come on down here as a group, and then I'm going to talk about you for a moment. So starting with first and foremost, from the state of Georgia, we have Edwin Bell. Come on down. Our next individual, I believe, is watching from home, so I will not make him hop on a plane and get here in the next 2 minutes, but we have Branda Kimura. Another individual, I believe, who is also watching online from Texas, we have Teresa Ewing. And do we have Joy Keller here as well? Come on down. Joy, are you in the room? She is not in the room either. So let me take a quick moment to talk about these. Since Edwin's the only one here standing up here, I will get to roast him for a moment. So Edwin is a good friend of mine from my home state here of Georgia. Edwin, at Will's direction here, has greatly helped out both in conference development planning and has done a yeoman's effort in really gathering all the hosts that you're seeing in each of our sessions, the folks that introduce our speakers, do the reminders at each of the breakout sessions, and really help put that effort into place. He has helped us revise the guidelines for that, has hosted the host session, and I think for the first time, at least in my memory, we had more people willing to be hosts than we had slots. We actually had a waiting list. In years past, sometimes we have to go out there and yank people at the last minute to bring them in and be a host, or bring people off the board or past presidents. This year, we didn't have to use any of those folks because there were so many people interested. So I don't know what his email list looks like, but I'm going to get that because he's found folks that want to be active and engaged in the organization. So on behalf of Will and myself, Edwin, thank you for your time and your commitment. Brandon Kimura, who is watching online, has been working with Kathy in our core subcommittee. He has been actively working on the workforce development curricula and updating that, as well as helping with some of the overall coordination of the core committee. So we thank him for his effort. Joy Keller and Teresa Ewing, who also appear to not be here, have been active and engaged on our education committee as we've looked and done some of our planning efforts over the course of the last year, so I certainly want to thank them for their efforts as well. So without further ado, we'll move on. And Edwin, I'll get you your pen.
All right. Thank you, TJ. And again, if you're interested, again, a lot of work on the Education Committee, please join them on Wednesday at 1:30 in Monet 1. So at this time, I'd like to call our next director up and chair of our Membership Services Committee, Michelle Donovan.
Thank you, Paul. So this year with the Membership Services Committee, we took care of a lot of really great things that have benefited the entire membership. And I'd like to take this opportunity to kind of explain about membership and the importance of this committee and really getting involved in this committee. You've heard everybody already talk about all of the different all the things that we do that provide value to the membership. And it's really our job to make sure that that information is out there to the entire court community so that they know why they should become members of NACOM. You also heard from our treasurer that we need to bring more members in. It's imperative that we get as many people from as many diverse backgrounds as we can to make sure that we're providing the value to those different communities, and that we can make sure that they all have the access to the resources that we have made available. And we've done such a fantastic job in all of our other committees creating these resources. We want to make sure that they're available to everybody. So that is our overall goal. And within that, we have 3 subcommittees. The first one is the International Committee, and they're making sure that internationally we have a voice and that we can provide international resources. And they've done a great job reaching out and trying to start a repository for different people that might be interested in doing international work. Another one of our subcommittees is the ECP. It's the Early Career Professionals. So anybody who has been in court administration for less than 10 years or is under 40 years old is invited to attend. And Angie this morning came up and did a great job explaining the NACOM Cares event. And yesterday we had the ECP reception, and then also trying to find out what that unique population needs. So we've been working really closely to figure out what we can do to make sure that the next generation of court administrators is able to provide the same level of support and resources and benefits that we've been able to do for years and years. And then our last subcommittee is the State Association Subcommittee. And so we coordinate with the state associations that are trying to do what we're doing in their own states and being very specific. And so by working with them, we're able to make sure that we have contact throughout the entire country with what the unique needs are, and being able to share our resources with them so that we truly are a national organization that is helping everybody that's available. And so some of the things that we've done that are trying to bring all of those benefits together and make sure that everybody in our organization knows what's going on is we did a membership appreciation week. We have streamlined the scholarship and awards process this year. We've updated our dual membership agreements, so a lot of you might be in other court organizations that we partner with to make sure that your membership is even more attainable financially. And so all of that list is on our website, and we've updated all of those agreements to make sure that they're current and active and that we can mutually benefit. So those other organizations also benefit from interacting. We've also taken a very data-driven approach as to how we can focus our efforts to really get some of the underrepresented areas across the country to participate with NACOM. And we're definitely looking at targeted approaches and marketing approaches. And so adding on to what the Communications Committee is doing with Social Network is we're really going to be focusing on a LinkedIn campaign to reach out to the 18,000 folks that are registered on LinkedIn that say that they are in the judiciary. Their employment is in the judiciary. So if we've got 18,000 folks, and you can see that our membership numbers, we have a little over 1,700. So we have a lot to go. We have a lot of other people we can reach out to. And we want to spend this next year really talking about what we can do to make sure that those people feel welcomed and included, and that we're giving them something unique that maybe they're not getting in their state associations. And so I'd really like to extend this invitation for you to attend our Wednesday meeting to start talking about exactly what we need to do and what we can do moving forward to make sure that we are as inclusive as we possibly can be. I also want to take a minute to invite a couple of other folks up to the stage if you are still in attendance. Joe Tomasino and Randall Soderquist have both been incredibly involved throughout the year, especially on the State Associations Committee. Thank you. Yes, come on up. They both happen to be from this very state and have been instrumental in making sure that everything is moving forward the way that we need it to, and we just really appreciate that time and effort that they put in. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Now I'd like to call up our Governance Committee Chair, Greg Lambard.
Thank you, Paul. Hello once again. The Governance Committee has had yet another busy year. As you know, we've already worked on the changes to the Articles of Incorporation, and in just a bit, we'll be discussing proposed changes to the bylaws. Where even more work has been done this year is in updating the operations manual. Board member Angie Van Schork from Breckenridge, Colorado, has done a fantastic job chairing the operations manual subcommittee. Beyond the changes the subcommittee proposed to the board this year, she's also instituted a new procedure that will ensure future boards have guidance on which documents and procedures need review in any given year. Once again, Angie, thank you for your efforts. As part of NACM's effort to be the voice of the profession, my vice chair and incoming chair of governance, Rick Pierce from Pennsylvania, utilized the results of last year's Voice of the Profession survey to craft an original resolution on the subject of public confidence in the court system. He will continue to use the results of this year's survey to help advise the board and the association on what we collectively feel we should do on issues of importance to our field. Speaking of the Voice of the Profession survey, the second annual survey will be administered following the State of the Profession address that Paul Delache will be delivering tomorrow morning. Peter Kiefer from Arizona continues his excellent work chairing the Ethics Subcommittee. In the coming year, they will be conducting a survey of courts and administrative offices to identify employee ethics boards and collect published ethical opinions. They will also be developing a catalog of codes of ethics that they hope to post on the NACM website in the near future. Finally, the coming year is a planning year to develop the next NACM national agenda. This document is meant as a guide to court professionals, court associations, and individual courts. If you're interested in being part of this effort, we would love the assistance. In fact, we would love your assistance on any of these projects. Please consider joining us. A quick email to Rick Pierce, rick@nacmnet.org, and he will ensure that you're on the contact list. Finally, Rick and I would like to honor the contribution of two of our committee members. I don't think I saw her on the list here. Is Nicole Garcia from Maricopa County here? Well, Nicole was a newer member to our committee, and she volunteered to be part of the committee to help draft this year's State of the Profession address. Her assistance was much appreciated. The other honoree is not in the room because, again, he's working and already been honored by a different committee, and he probably has a stack of Lady Liberty pins somewhere in his house. But as mentioned, Peter Kiefer continues his excellent work running the Ethics Subcommittee for us. He's also been instrumental in getting our podcasts up and our Facebook Live sessions. We're very grateful for all of his efforts. So that kind of ends my committee report, and we're going to slide into going back into the changes on the Articles of Incorporation. We have tallied the vote. Thank you for giving us your votes. There were 99 votes yay and 4 abstentions, no nays. As the yeas were more than 2/3 of the votes cast, the changes have been approved. The official results would be reported to the Virginia State Corporation Committee. With the Articles of Incorporation now changed to designate the bylaws as the document that will govern the number of directors, we are now poised to vote on the proposed change to Article 4, Section 4 of the bylaws. This will change the bylaws to remove the requirement that the Articles of Incorporation need to be changed to change the number of directors. Only in a court system, folks. At any rate, are there any questions on the first proposal there? I'm now going to be calling for a voice vote. Please remember you are only eligible to vote if you are a regular, honorary, or retired member in good standing. Please indicate your approval of the proposed change to Article 4, Section 4 by saying yay. Those opposed, please indicate with a nay. All right, as it appears the necessary 2/3 majority has been met, that change is approved. With that change approved, we will now ask for one more vote on the proposed changes to Article 5, Section 1 and Article 6, Section 3B. The change to Article 5, Section 1 will reduce the number of directors from 10 to 9. The change to Article 6, Section 3B will correct an inaccurate reference. Are there any questions regarding this proposal? Once again, please indicate your approval by saying yay. Those opposed indicate with nay. All right. As it appears that the necessary 2/3 majority has been met, the change is approved. I want to thank you for your time and attention. I now turn you back to Paul Delache.
Thank you, Greg. And again, I know that we've said that several times within the business meeting. You can see a lot of work actually goes into the NACM Board of Directors and everything that we do for you. Please get involved. Please participate in one of the committee meetings. Sit, and even you don't have to go to the main table. Sit on the side of the room just to listen, to see what we do. So thank you for that. So now I would like to say that this concludes the business meeting for today. We will recess until tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. So recess until Tuesday, July 23rd at 8:30 a.m. So this convenes now. We have our break before we start our next session. So again, thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your appreciation for everything that the board does on your behalf, and enjoy the break, and we'll see you back at the next session. So thank you.